All right, this committee is now called to order. Everyone please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, be seated. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Mr. Dragonetti.
Present.
Mr. Barron.
Present.
Mr. Kroll. Dick Kroll.
Here.
Thank you.
Oh,
Beth Mitchell. Louise Cottenberg. Here. Sergio Mota.
Here.
Bruce Hoffman.
Here.
Fred Jones.
here.
Nancy Muniz.
Here.
Frank Terranova.
Here.
Bob Zomak.
Here.
And Matthew Sims, Carolyn Sartain Anderson, Michael Frank, and Albert Iovino have asked for an excused absence tonight. Thank you.
Do we have any agenda modifications? Hearing none, we'll move forward.
Move to approve.
Approval of the minutes of February 8th, 2016 minutes. We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, signify aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Do we have anyone from the public? Seeing none, hearing none. We will now move forward to the comments regarding Articles 1 and 2. Actually, before we do that, I would like, we have a new member here today, Mr. Frank Terranova. I would like for you, please, sir, to stand and tell us a little about yourself.
Put your mic on.
I'm a resident of Sebastian. I'm a retired business person. I've been in the insurance business, I've been in construction, I've been in land development, I've been an attorney, and I'm retired. Here we are.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, we have another new member as well.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Nancy Munoz, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you please tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, I'm also retired. I was a finance manager for a school district in the state of Alaska for over 20 years.
Wow.
So I'm very familiar with the public sector and enjoy Sebastian very much.
How's the weather here?
It's a little bit warmer, but it's good. And there's more daylight.
You have to import snow here also.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Hoffman, you have comments regarding?
Yes, I would like to see if we could go back and review the discussion on Section 206E, which was cited in a recent city council meeting. And I think we have a little bit of discrepancy in the way that paragraph is written now that I read through it for the second time, similar to what we discussed last month involving why the term of the mayor wasn't specifically stated, yet the term of the vice mayor was. And in this case, I see in Section E, it discusses very fully in the last, is it the last sentence or the last two sentences here? The last sentence, very plainly, in the event the office of the mayor becomes vacant during the course of a term, the new vice mayor shall be chosen as a first order of business at the next council meeting. It doesn't state that for the mayor. It really doesn't say what the heck is to happen. And that's not to say that it just got invented a couple of weeks ago, but it really, maybe we need to be more specific as to what happens when that position becomes vacant. It just says the vice mayor shall succeed.
How do you define vacant?
Raising the issue. Not to say that what transpired was incorrect or wrong, or I'm not making a judgment, I'm just saying we're reviewing the charter, and maybe that paragraph's E needs to be more specifically clarified, with wording added to it.
In other words, how do you define vacant, a cause of vacant, and so on and so forth? I mean, it's
Well,
just, vacant is vacant.
well, it just says the vice mayor shall succeed, in which he did, but it doesn't talk about how quickly we go about holding. It's very clear, if the vice mayor
Is the mayor.
becomes the first order at the next council meeting. Is, you know, no one agrees, that's perfectly fine, I'll let it roll, but I'm just thinking that the paragraph needs to be enhanced.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Yes, if you have your information, my short epistle is located on page 24 of 68. Mr. Hoffman and I were at that particular council meeting. It was an embarrassment to the citizens of Sebastian, to say the least. The process, as they were going through the process of this reorganization meeting, I had a copy of the charter with me. I was unable to find the words reorganization meeting anywhere in the charter. And from what I understand, and Mr. Armitage, maybe you can comment on this, that the reason that they were able to do this was because the charter is silent on the issue? Question.
To do what?
To do that reorganization debacle that they went through.
Well, there is the capacity for a reorganization, and one of the council members requested a reorganization from the meeting before, so it was on the agenda. And so the question became, was the office vacant? Reading the charter provision, it contemplates a time when the mayor can no longer serve. He's moving, leaving office, incapacitated health-wise, and then it would make sense that the vice mayor would move up. But since there was already an agenda item on the agenda calling for a reorganization, the question became, was the office vacant? And that was up to the council to decide whether he could resign.
But Councilmember Hill continually referred to the authority to move on this existing in the charter. I'm unable to find anything in the charter that enables that.
The mayor is selected by the council at the first meeting after an election in a reorganization. He called for another reorganization, and the idea is that whatever the charter gives the council to do, the charter also gives the council to undo. So since the charter gives the council the authority to select the mayor, it also gives the charter, absent a specific requirement otherwise, to undo that decision.
So then it is really because the charter is silent on that issue, because they can do something, it infers, implies, whatever word you want to use, that they can undo it.
Yes, if there is no
there's nothing-
prohibition prohibiting them from undoing something, then a charter provision giving them the power to do something also gives them the power to undo it.
Well, this is part of Article 2, and we have addressed that article, at least in part, and I completely support Mr. Hoffman's suggestion that somewhere along the line, we come back and revisit that part of Article 2 and seriously consider putting something in there that disallows what this embarrassment was. And I'm sure you've seen the newspaper articles on it. And although I'm reluctant to agree with a lot of things that Larry Reisman says, okay, his article was dead on. If you were at that council meeting, he laid it out just the way it was. And they really did need to grow up.
So hearing that.
I mean, I think I like your explanation. I think it's well understood that that's exactly right. But I think, for the lack of, I think what was missing was the fact that we kept referring to reorganization, but like Mr. Zomek says, there's nowhere in Section 2 that it discusses the topic or the idea of reorganization. It's almost like it got pulled out of thin air as a way to justify what took place, rather than going back to the explanation you had, which is, for lack of my ignorance here, a legal explanation, which is you can undo anything you have the power to do.
Absent of prohibition from undoing it.
Right, and I guess what I'm saying is it seemed almost as if, and that's not to say that anyone's being accused, but it's almost like there should be a subject or matter or a documentation that says the council is allowed to reorganize anytime it wants to. I think that authority should be clearly stated so that it doesn't give this appearance that we're just going off the top and doing something.
Well, and the other thing I think needs to be addressed is why does the charter give the vice mayor a one-year term, but not the mayor? And that, I mean, presumably, given the number of charter review commissions that have viewed this charter, that must be an intentional act. It couldn't be repeated oversight. So there must be a reason why the vice mayor is given a one-year term, whereas the mayor is not. And since the charter does not give the mayor a specific term, also given the fact that the council can undo anything it does, it lent to the idea that it could remove the mayor. So one of the questions I had, which there was no answer, is why does the charter have a specific term of 1 year for the vice mayor, but not for the mayor?
We've addressed that. Louise K., please.
Good.
Thank you. From my personal standpoint, I'm willing to rediscuss this and go over it again, but I would like very much to eliminate derogatory terminology from the whole process. I don't think that's appropriate. As far as the thought process behind it, I didn't find this the least bit strange. I know, I think I understand full well the city manager form of government, which says that a body of people, just like this body of people, was given the option to choose our own leadership, to choose the person who runs our meetings. That's exactly the same way it is for the council. We do not have a strong council, mayor council form of government. We have a city manager form of government. The mayor is not elected by the people at all, in any way, shape, or form. He is chosen by his peers to lead the meetings for that period of time. And it's kind of like, we don't have to be told everything in order to know how to function in life. You know that if it doesn't say stop at the corner, you don't necessarily have to stop at the corner. You can, common sense would say you take some caution, but if there isn't a stop sign at the corner, you are not obligated to stop at the corner. And I think the same is true with the charter, because we're describing more than just the organization of the council in a charter. Some of the people who are elected to council are supposedly intelligent people. If they're not intelligent people, they're certainly chosen by the public. So that public, they've chosen those people to run the meetings and their organization appropriately and the way that they are prescribed, but we give them latitude, and they need some latitude. Otherwise, they could just punch in and punch out, and that's not what it's all about. Thank you.
Dick?
I wasn't at the council meeting, but I guess my question, because this was something we addressed last time, was about the term for vice mayor versus mayor. Could the same thing have happened to the vice mayor that happened to the mayor at the last council meeting with his term stated?
No.
So that's what okay.
This wouldn't happen again.
That would have made it murkier. That was one of the reasons why, when the council did not accept Mayor Gilmore's resignation, why Vice Mayor Adams was not automatically mayor after he was removed, because he was vice mayor for a year. And then he was acting mayor when Mayor Gilmore was removed, and then his responsibility was to call for nominations for the office of mayor.
Beth?
But in following up regarding Mr. Hoffman's point, I do agree that one of the things that's missing here is that it contemplates when the mayor wishes to leave of his own volition. He's ill, he's moving, whatever. It does not contemplate removing the mayor. So it is silent on that, and so we went to the notion what the council can do, it can undo. If the commission thinks that needs to be addressed in the charter, I think we need to discuss that. Also, one of the things is what the commission can do is authorize in the charter that the council pass an ordinance specifying how the mayor is selected and how this mayor can be removed. It does not have to be in the charter, it can be an ordinance.
If the mayor had a one-year term specified in the charter, would he have been able to be removed the way he was, or would he have to resign?
He would have to resign.
Beth?
Yes, just a couple of comments. Louise, I agree with your comment about not being negative or judgmental or second-guessing council members. I'm not comfortable with doing that. I do know that as public officials who are elected through our representative form of government, that they are privy to information and facts and things that perhaps the public is not aware of. And I think struggling through this process, I believe that there were council members who felt as if they were doing the right thing, and that they may have had good reason that we're not aware of for taking the actions that they did. The second comment I would make would be that speaking more to the charter, and I think it's the philosophy, when you're talking about leadership and building consensus and working as a team, those are esoteric terms that we are trying to codify, and that's not an easy task. I think that it is very important to have a cohesive council that can agree to disagree, and if it is not functioning in that manner, then I do think that the council members have a responsibility to the citizenship to do the right thing. Quite frankly, after all of this, I had considered bringing up the idea that we take out the motion that we passed the last time around in terms of defining the mayor's term, because I do believe that it is important for the council members to have the ability to govern themselves. Those are my comments.
Mrs. Omak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was something that I felt obviously very strongly about, okay, sitting in that room and watching that unfold, okay. I truly was embarrassed. As a citizen of Sebastian, I was embarrassed. I thought it was a debacle. The council having knowledge that citizens may be unaware of, to me, would violate the Sunshine Law. And I think Councilmember Coy pointed that out as they were going through their arguments, okay? One of the things that I always did with my employees, people that reported to me, was if you're going to bring me a problem, please bring me a solution, okay? So if you look at the bottom of page 24 of 68, there is, for discussion, okay, a possible process for addressing this issue, okay? So I presented the problem, I presented my opinion on that particular problem, but I have also presented, at least for discussion purposes, a potential resolution to that issue.
Could you clarify what you think of as a term of a violation of sunshine? I don't understand that.
Well, you commented that council members may have information that the public may be unaware of.
Right.
That, to me, would be a violation of sunshine.
I would ask the attorney, is that a violation of sunshine?
I'm sorry, I was reading.
Ms. Mitchell commented that the council members may have information that the public might be unaware of in issues like this. My feeling is if they have that kind of information and it is, that it could be a violation or a violation of sunshine.
Sunshine Law contemplates if two of the council are discussing matters outside of a duly noticed meeting, or if someone serves as a conduit, has a conversation with one member and then goes back to another member and relays that conversation virtually verbatim. That is also a violation of sunshine. If a council member learns of something through his own investigation or by his own eyes, that is not necessarily a violation of the sunshine. It takes a concerted effort of more than one person to circumvent open government in order to be a violation of the sunshine.
And in deference to your concept, Ms. Mitchell, that's why I have proposed the process that requires these debates to be public. Because I had the distinct impression that some things the public was unaware of some things that were going on that I strongly believed the public should have been aware of, and they weren't. I mean, it wasn't discussed. You know, to me, it had all the trappings of a coup d'etat, okay? And we now have a 3-member council.
I guess I know that sunshine covers a lot. I also believe that there are circumstances where each of the council members has information that the general public does not have. And I do not believe that that in and of itself is a violation of sunshine. I think the difficulties, quite frankly, part of the problem with what happened was the fact that the council members could not sit together and talk about this in the ways that you have proposed. And in fact, I reviewed your proposal, and I am not an attorney by any means, but But my first thought was that that would, in and of itself, be a violation of the sunshine. I think that that may have been a sticking point. And I'll give you an example. You know, council is allowed to go into session for some very specific and clearly defined reasons where it is important for them to have a conversation outside of the public view for the benefit of the city, to protect the city. And there are some circumstances where that does happen. Apparently, this situation, they were not able to do that. So it became pretty murky. I think that's a great word for what happened. But
Well, again, my proposal is for comment and discussion, just to precipitate exactly that, okay? No more than that.
But what I believe, and we will have to defer to the attorney on this, but when we get to your proposal, I'm concerned that that in and of itself is a violation of sunshine.
I appreciate the discussion and comment on it.
Okay.
Mrs. Dragonetti?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the public really doesn't know what went on behind closed doors. They didn't get the information that led to this what appeared to be a personality battle versus protection of the charter. And the question I've been asked is, you know, what led up to this incident? You know, why did they do this? And Richard Gilmore wasn't given a chance to explain what happened, what was going on, and so the public is still very much in the dark of what led to this issue. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just am a little bit concerned that we're going to use the charter to prescribe rules for the sandbox. So I guess I just want to make sure that my goal with the charter was we need to review what's not working and propose a fix for it, but what's working, leave it alone. And as the attorney pointed out, there has to be a reason why there was not a term for the mayor. Perhaps this is one of those reasons, that then you become prescriptive, you lock in a term, and the council can't deal with the internal workings and personality conflicts that can arise when you have 5 people trying to work together with different personalities.
And I just want to say, Dan, I agree with you. If you look at the Sebastian, there's a Facebook group for people that live in Sebastian that has over 3,000 members. And if you look at some of the comments on there, the majority of the comments, I would say at least 80 to 90% of the comments are individuals that clearly they don't understand what part took during that particular city council meeting. I think one of the most important parts about leadership in general, as you know, in the military, is being able to communicate with your constituents, with the people that you represent. I think that's something that's missing, and it leads to a lot of confusion, a lot of different avenues, and a lot of different questions. And I think that issue about communication, I don't know how it can be worded somehow, can be addressed.
There's one final comment on this from me, anyway. The charter is the constitution for the city. And when it would appear to me that when you see what is an issue and a problem, that it is incumbent upon us to at least discuss it and to see if it deserves inclusion in the charter or in the Constitution, because that's supposedly what governs. And what really gave me, inclined me to believe that this should be included in the charter was the part that if the charter is silent on something, then it can be done. That worries me.
I would have to agree with Mr. Zarmak over here about the appearance of impropriety in this whole situation. I saw this thing, I was watching it at home, and I saw the whole thing, and I thought it was a disaster, right? Mr. Gilmore offered to resign. Nobody asked why they didn't accept the resignation. They all said, oh, no, we can't have you resign because somebody was doing something. Nobody asked Gilmore to make a statement. Nobody said any reasons whatsoever as to why they wanted Gilmore out, but it seems like there was a consensus among the people, or the council people, that he had to go, and that they were going to do it with a reorganization, because had he resigned, Adams would have been mayor, right? Whereas if you got the organization, they can pick somebody else. But even the reporters, when they wrote the story, said, I'm still amazed that they did all of this without giving Gilmore the chance to speak, and number two, without giving any reason whatsoever why they didn't like his leadership. And then the third thing, as far as I'm concerned, is, as we were talking about it previously here tonight, the mayor in this town is an office of pomp and circumstance. It is a ribbon-cutting office. It's going to the parades and patting everybody on the back. They don't do anything for leadership. They're a figurehead. If it comes to wanting to do something, want to accomplish anything, want to move on certain matters, it's the council that has to do everything. And if they didn't like the way this town was going, right, it's their own damn fault, right? But it did have in the legal business, you have to avoid the appearance of impropriety.
Right.
They gave the appearance of impropriety to me, to him, and to all the people who wrote stories about it and who read the stories. Now, if this whole thing can be cured by just putting a term in for him where we're told that they can't kick the mayor out, because if we put a one-year term in there, they can't do this, then we solve that problem.
Right, I would just say one thing, let's just make sure that we keep our comments, the negative aspect of it, using words that are not appropriate for this, out of the conversation. That's for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, having heard all of that, all the comments and everything, do we have a motion for anything? We have no motions? Okay, so we'll move forward to Ms. Munoz's comments regarding Article 1-1.02, Section 4.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that in the ever-changing world of technology, terminology also changes. Information technology usually addresses the building of an infrastructure and a method of collecting data and transmitting the data and recording it and storing it. Telecommunications is your delivery of the ability to send and receive information, whether it's by telephone, by email. It's the actual service side of it. And I think that that's maybe I wasn't here for the last meeting, so I don't know the total discussion, but I'm thinking just from prior experience with working with the public sector that using telecommunications might be a better term for the utility piece of this charter section.
Ms. Munoz, would you give me the section again, please?
Sure. It's Article 1, Section 1.02, Paragraph 4.
Thank you.
Would you read the definitions again?
Sure.
Maybe we want both.
Yeah, it could be. Information technology is the application of computers and telecommunications equipment to store, retrieve, transmit, and manipulate data, often in the context of business or other enterprise. So from a commercial and employment perspective, and the Information Technology Association of America has defined information technology as the study, design, development, application, implementation, support, or management of computer-based information systems,
Which the city does.
which the city does. But when you're talking about utilities, and that's why I may need clarification. When you're talking about utilities, telecommunication occurs when the exchange of information between two or more entities, communication, includes the use of technology. Communication technology uses channels to transmit information, such as electrical signals, either over a physical medium, such as signal cables, or in the form of electromagnetic waves. The word is often used in its plural form, telecommunications, because it involves many different technologies.
So where does the city website fit in that?
Yeah, I'm missing what your point is here. Where specifically are you addressing? I'm looking, what, you're talking
Or-
about the heading, public utilities?
Well, public utilities, yes. For the purpose of including it in public utilities, that's why I suggested the telecommunication. Because if you read
No, we made a change to that, I'm sorry.
public utilities, to
I
furnish
missed
any and all local public services, including electricity, gas, water, lights, transportation. So if you're looking at it from the perspective of a utility, I believe telecommunications may be a more effective term. It's just a suggestion.
Further down, it says to establish, impose, and enforce rates and charges for appliances, services, or conveniences by the city to any person, so on and so forth. I'm thinking it might be both.
Yeah.
That we really want in there, both words.
Yeah, that
I
works for
I
me.
appreciate the suggestion and the definition, and on page 20 is a list of the actions that we took at our last meeting, and the first one is the one that I think you're referring to, Nancy.
Yes, it is.
And I would be happy to make a motion to include both of those terms in the change.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Is there something from the last meeting I keep forgetting that we were supposed to bring back for this meeting? I think Mr. Hoffman was to write up something.
I don't know, that's a good point. I had asked for a copy of that earlier, and I just never got, at the time, I didn't get it, and I am not prepared for that. Whatever we were going to bring back.
Page 6?
Yeah, I think it's in page 6.
We in the, page 6 in the minutes?
No, I don't see that.
The verbiage on term limits? Was that it?
Yeah, that's on 4, I believe, right?
No, that's on 6.
6?
That's the term limits. There's the paragraph in there. Started a motion, but I don't know that it ever got finalized according to the minutes.
No, it didn't.
Oh,
No, it didn't. during that discussion, the special magistrate told us that we should probably put that on hold because Tallahassee was voting on something. That bill has since died, so
It has.
what we were moving forward with, I believe, that's what we need to actually vote on here tonight, whether or not we're going to have that included in the changes. I believe, Mrs. Zomack, didn't you advise that in the 2011 charter review that that you all visited that too? Louise, you were there, right?
Yeah, it gets visited every time we meet.
So,
But I think there's actually some verbiage that we came up with.
I know it appeared on the ballot and it was rejected by,
Well, the council never let it get to the ballot, the term limit thing.
it was on the ballot. I
It's on
saw.
the ballot.
Yeah.
The term
But-
limits?
Yeah, that was my problem with that, is I think that the way the election laws, the way it has to be written on the ballot, that a lot of people did not understand what it really meant, maybe. And we had discussed, since now the Pelican Post goes to every city resident, and also we're talking about putting it in the newspaper, advertising it, that if we put it the way it's written, that has to be written on the ballot, and also an explanation as to how this committee came to that decision, I think maybe that'll give the public more information on whether to vote for it or not.
As I recall, it did appear on the ballot, though not in exactly the format that Mr. Zomack and a couple of the other people wished it to be. And that's up to the council. You know, we're an advisory committee.
Well, I'm still predisposed to support term limits. And continue, I started the motion, but I can go back and we can revise. You know, I would propose, and I think that was the deal, that we would use the same language, but I was proposing to limit it to the 2 consecutive terms. And we had agreed earlier to increase the terms to 4 years, so the 2 consecutive terms would be based upon a term of 4 years and not 2 years, which would mean after 8 years, you got to take 4 years off before you can run again.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Just, we did pass a motion last time around that did not include the concept of term limits. It was strictly
Correct.
increasing the term. So, I'm not sure how these motions then are translated into ballot language, but it would seem that the term limits would stand on its own. That motion would stand, or that.
Correct. I have no intention of putting them together. Right?
Okay. So while your thought process says it's based on a 4-year term, if that doesn't,
Right, if that gets rejected in the other area.
Yeah. so
Right.
that would be a concern.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused as to what the question is. I mean,
What we're saying is and if I may speak for us, is that we have one motion already approved to extend the term of the council members from 2 years to 4 years. And if that would get rejected by the voters, and the term limits would get approved, limiting it to 2 terms, suddenly you can only serve 2 two-year terms instead of, the thinking would be that it's 2 4-year terms. And I agree, maybe
so if it's put to the vote.
maybe we need to defer this for 5 years.
But if it's put to the voters as a combined amendment, if you will, wouldn't that solve the problem, either all or nothing? Both or nothing?
Thought it turned it on, sorry. There's a term called log rolling in election laws. And the Supreme Court deals with this all the time when it deals with the constitutional amendment proposals that go into the Florida Constitution. Every motion has to have one issue in order to avoid a situation where you have a voter who agrees with one issue but disagrees with another and then has to weigh how much does he agree or disagree in order to cast a vote. And so every initiative can only have one issue.
So perhaps that's the reason why the amendment in the last election was defeated, that had two parts to it: to be elected an even number of years instead of having elections every year. And the second part was to be elected for 4-year terms instead of 2-year terms. It had two parts to it, and it was defeated.
And one of the problems, if that had been passed and been challenged in the court, it probably would have been overturned.
Well, I will withdraw any semblance of any motion I have made to term limits, with the idea that I think it's better to increase the terms this time to 4 years and get that clarified. Do we want to go back and revisit the, Mr. Chairman, how am I going to say this? I've forgotten the timing for the elections. People don't like that we're having 3 elected and off years. Somehow I don't understand why that's an issue, but I'll let you guys who think it is debate that.
So basically what this says is that someone need to help me with this. The recommendation of the made in 2011 council members should be elected an even number of years for 4 years. Is that the way it was written last time?
Yes.
Absent the second part that
That's
was.
that's the way the voting amendment was. That's the way it was voted on. 2 parts. Okay. To be elected even number of years instead of having elections every year, and be elected to 4-year terms instead of 2-year terms.
Now, does this help us with the off-year election?
Yes.
It does?
Well, you would have an election every 2 years instead of every year.
Right.
Yes, sir, Mr. Dragnetti.
I have a question. Isn't the Florida legislature going to be addressing this issue?
It's gone.
It's gone, it died.
Dead.
They've done that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Our latest intelligence is that bill is not moving forward.
So this does, where we don't have an off-year election, that it doesn't cost the city $35,000, $36,000 every time we have an off-year election. This prevents that if it passes from the city council to get on the ballot. Good. I've just been advised that we probably need to address the date of the election. I'm not sure, does it always go in November?
Yes. It always has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? That sort of begs the question, does it have to go in November?
Well, I think we'll run into an issue of,
Cost?
yes,
Yeah.
Louise?
If you'll excuse me, a number of years ago, it's really nice to be older than dirt, honestly. A number of years ago, and this is where the March thing came from, we did have elections at an earlier time of the year. That was changed because we ended up often having to run 2 elections, one for our local government and one for other things, and it was just horrendously expensive, and it didn't make any sense at all. So that's how we got to November. National and other local elections are held in November, so we hold our local elections in November as well.
Thank you. Are we ready to proceed with the Articles 3 and 4?
No.
Nope.
I got one
sorry.
comment on Article 2 yet. Okay, that I think it
Sorry.
addresses my comment on page 7 of 68. Excuse me. Where I said we had opted to endorse made a motion in the past to give council a raise. And my comment was maybe we should look at what they're actually making. So I did. I went back and looked at their W-2s. The mayor's base salary is $450, but he has an expense account of $300 per month. So his actual pay is $750 per month. The members have a base salary of $300, but an expense account of $300 as well. So their actual W-2 wages for the mayor, it's $750 times 12. And for the council members, it's $600 times 12. So it is not as little as we may have thought it was. The other thing that I have asked, and I'm waiting for a response from Cindy, the human resources person here, I've asked her to do a salary survey, okay, just to see how competitive we are, all right? And I am waiting for the results of that. So I thought you should know, and this is from their W-2s. I looked at the physical W-2s, okay? So the council members actually get paid $7,200 a year, okay? And the mayor is a little over $9,000 then.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we did have a motion and a second on this subject already, and it did pass. But I appreciate the comments, and just for clarification, it was my intent as the motion maker to not particularly raise the salaries of the council members, but by taking this action, what we have done is we have changed the way that they are compensated for their business expense, which is what really bothered me from the beginning. At this point, when you have a $300, I mean, you just said it, the $300 plus the $300 equals what the council member takes or receives, I'm sorry, on a monthly basis. But 300 of that is an open-ended business expense account. And so the intention was to go ahead and provide the council member with the $600 that they're already receiving, but if they incur business expenses, they would be required to submit for them specifically for that expense. That was the goal of this motion.
If I may, okay, I asked that question, okay? They also have, like if they go to a conference or something like that, they're reimbursed, and that's outside of the $300. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah, so they do get reimbursed for business expenses, and it is outside of W-2 income.
Right.
That part of it.
And that's what this motion is in, and that's what this action was intended to correct.
Do we need to clarify the motion?
I don't think so.
No, it's
Okay.
been voted. It eliminates all that, just 300, 300, 300 eliminates. If they don't have expenses, they don't have expenses. But the way it's written now is they get that regardless.
if they spend it or not.
Right.
I tried to do a little bit of research online just as to salaries and found a few of them. One was Vero Beach. The mayor supposedly makes $11.25, and the members of the council make $900 on a monthly basis. But I don't know if they get expenses on top of that too. But that, it's a larger city and everything else. But there are some other comparatives. We're low no matter what I could find. I found a whole bunch of cities, but there were larger cities, nothing this size of a city.
And let me just say to your point, even though what you mentioned about Vero Beach, Sebastian is much larger, and Vero Beach has a lot of employees, a lot of public employees, so there's some fiscal issues involved with Vero Beach, and I'm not comfortable with salary increases as I voted on as of the previous meeting.
Just to be clear, Ms. Mitchell, the motion that I'm looking at says to double the salary amounts currently allocated in the event the vice mayor acts as mayor, the vice mayor receives the mayor's salary. The expense account should be eliminated, but council members should be reimbursed for qualified expenses. That's
Correct.
Okay.
Any further comments, Mr. Zomack? Or do you have a motion?
Not at this time.
Louise?
Yeah, I just have a little issue with the time that we're spending. We've spent 1 hour going over what we already did, and I think that's not real productive use of our time since we have the whole charter to get through. The last time that we did one, we addressed the issues, made our motions, had the list prepared of things that were going to come back, took all the time through to think about these issues and to gather together the information from the various sources that we have, and then had, I think it was 2 or not maybe 3 wrap-up meetings where we readdressed every motion that we had made before we came up with our final advisory message to the council. But I know that I'm just shocked that we're here for an hour and we haven't even started tonight's work. So I don't know, I guess I would like to suggest that maybe as a way we organize our business might be to limit discussion to what's on the agenda for this period, and at some other time come back to the other issues that we've all had time to rethink our positions maybe. That's all I have to say.
I agree. So let's just move forward to Article 3.
Yeah, I agree with what she just said. We need to move on to Article 3.
All right. Article 3, we'll go with 3.01, creation, 3.02, appointments. Anything on that? Removal of charter officers. Any changes?
Mr. Chairman, as I did on the last Charter Review Committee, and on page 4 of 69 in our information, there is a rather lengthy website that is the National Civic League's model charter. And perhaps, and I'm offering this in a way in order to facilitate some of the discussion and also to explain why I'm writing these epistles, okay? I really believe in researching issues, especially when I am unaware of what they might be. And as I said, I'm using the National Civic League's model charter, and it covers a variety of city organizations. Okay, it is hardly limited to just the city manager one. But if you will turn to page 32 of 68, just by way of example, what I have done here is I have included what the current language of the Sebastian Charter is, and then listed what the model charter language is. And then a little later on, after I have done all that, and in the model charter, it includes explanatory comments on why they are recommending language. This use of this particular paradigm preceded me, because if you look at, for example, in section 304, item B, in Sebastian's charter, and then you look at the model charter, section 304.1, they're almost identical. The same thing happens with section 304C and the model 304.2. The Sebastian Charter 304D and the model 304.4, Sebastian 304E with the model 304.5. So somewhere along the line, somebody else went back, looked at this model charter, and obviously adopted the language. So after going through that research and providing you with the comparison of the two through this, then I was bold enough to, as you've come to expect from me, I'm sure by now, to provide a rewritten Article 3. And that begins on page 39 of 68. So to facilitate things, I guess we can have a couple of approaches. We can go through it section by section, or we can visit a proposed revision and look at comments that people may have. I know that somebody had comments on 304, 3.04. Somebody else had offered comments on that one as well. And I don't know if the charter, if the revised version addresses that and completes it. So anyway, that's what I did, and that's why it's there, and the epistles exist as they do.
I mean, notice that, in looking at what you were looking at, that National Civic League Charter was written in 2003. The thing was online. There's also one from National Municipal League, and so on and so forth. And I like what you're suggesting. I guess I question how, if we made quite a number of changes, how we could possibly present that to, to the electors.
Dick, I totally appreciate what you're saying, okay? And as Louise was pointing out earlier, we did everything that we wanted to change, and then got realistic, okay, and cut back to what we thought we could actually put before council and eventually move to a ballot. One of the other difficulties that was pointed out to me by Sally Mayo is we are, this time around, any kind of charter change recommendations that we are going to make are going to be on the back of a very long ballot.
Agree. My point.
Yes, ma'am.
Comment where we are starting to get a little lost here.
Yeah.
But this, I believe, is the section we had discussed at the last meeting, I think, I had raised the issue of an annual evaluation of the charter officers, which is not in the charter, and I would still like to see that happen. I appreciate your comment about not burdening the voters. I also would not be inclined to develop an evaluation, or I'd like to leave that up to the council members as to how they want to evaluate the charter members. I just believe that it's important that both charter members and the council members know that there must be a process in place.
And that's why if you look at the comparison under the city manager, where in the model charter, it is pulled out as a separate issue and expanded in terms of duties, coming from a human resources perspective, and that was my career, okay, that would have been a really nice little job description from which a performance evaluation could easily be developed.
I don't disagree with that, but I don't believe it should be in the charter.
Well, that outlines what the duties are, and that's already in the charter.
But there's no requirement for the council members at this point to review the charter officers on an annual basis.
Can I just say that there was at one time, it was, although it was not in the charter, it was part of the way they did things, and I think you'll probably remember it if you think about it. They did do an annual evaluation of the
Right.
charter officers, and the reason that they stopped doing it is, first of all, it has to be done in the sunshine, and I believe that overall they felt very uncomfortable basically doing an employee interview in the public, because that's what it came to. So they kind of got to be real standard, complimentary, we like you very much, we think that you're doing a fine job, and it was like an evening of praise.
Right.
So it was pretty useless as to what that an evaluation might be considered in a normal employee-employer situation. But I think we need to bear in mind that the charter officers serve at the pleasure of the council. So, and that's a pretty, and they all have, and those charter officers have very specific contracts, which outline exactly what they should and can do, and so I don't think it's something that we need to worry about in charter.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I do it for discussion, and a lot of it. But also, in looking at it, the justification on the commentary that they have too, has been for me at times eye-opening.
All right, so moving forward to what we were talking about, 3.03, removal of charter officers. Is there any recommendations, changes to that? Hearing none, moving forward, 3.04, city manager powers and duties. Yes, sir, Dick.
I didn't speak quick enough. There's a couple of terms in 3.03 that I wondered about. Like the charter officer shall be given a reasonable period of time. What's a reasonable period of time to prepare for such a hearing? My experience with something has been that we should be more specific about things like that, or there should be more, what's a reasonable period of time? Who determines what a reasonable period of time is? It's nitpicking maybe, but it really is a question.
Could you just point out to me specifically where
Just right at
Page
almost the
25.
bottom of the page, the suspended charter officer shall be given a reasonable period of time in order to prepare for such hearing.
Well, I think, first of all, reasonable length of time would probably go to what type of charges are levied against them, what type of information or that they may have to look up, find, and what I determine may be reasonable may not be reasonable enough for them. So when they put reasonable, they have to articulate why they need more time or that they need more information. That's what I would think. Yes, sir.
I also have some problems with some words in that section. Like the whole deal that you're going to do, in the event that one or more council members believes, doesn't say anything about proofs anywhere in here, right? But they say if he believes that something exists, write down what his beliefs are, serve it on him, and we're moving into the process of letting the guy have to defend himself now, right? There's nothing here to say about proofs to support his beliefs or anything else like that, and there should be some scheduled time. I agree. If you're going to put some beliefs and written charges together, you have to give some basis for those charges, then give him a reasonable time, and you should state it out for him to answer so that you can have a nice process to do this.
Right. I don't think they need proof off the top. They're saying that there's something there, and then they go forward with that, and then they find their evidence, and then obviously the person would have to come up with whatever they have to defend themselves. So
I'd hate to have to defend myself against beliefs.
Yeah, but again, I'll go back to what Luis said. The charter officers serve at the pleasure of the council. If they believe they're an idiot, it doesn't matter. They don't have to prove it. They just believe that.
yes, sir.
I like proof. You have to prove it. I'm not a lawyer, but I think that's called in the trade due process. You just can't believe something. You've got to document it, and you have to prove it. I'm a big believer in hard evidence. You've got to prove it, not just think it, believe it, imagine it, what have you. You've got to show me your evidence.
Well, then you're going to have to go back and change section 302, which says that they truly serve at the pleasure of city council, and that's what pleasure means. If I don't like you, I don't want you, you're not serving at my pleasure. That's literally what that means.
But I do believe they have to have proof of something at some point, not just from the beginning. Obviously, they're going to have that, and they have to present that information.
Not
Please?
not really.
Not really. At pleasure means at their pleasure. It means if I don't suddenly care for you as of tomorrow, I can bring a motion and put it up there and ask for it to be voted on.
What keeps this from being frivolous, and I think that's the concern, that there would be a frivolous action based on a personality conflict from one person, perhaps. What keeps it from being frivolous is the contract, because the contract always has in it some clauses that cost a lot of money. You end up having to buy out a contract, basically, if you've decided that it's and I don't have an example of a contract before me, but I am aware of, I think, 2 different situations where charter officers were dismissed at a meeting, just like that. And this does provide for, if you're suspended or dismissed, you get to come forward and ask for proof, if that's what you want to do, or you just abide by your contract, take your payout, and leave quietly. But the people, when that happens, it's not done frivolously because it's very expensive. So that's just an insight.
Yes, sir.
Yes, going back to this whole section over here, if you just work on beliefs and could possibly be frivolous, we're going to be back in the same situation as when we removed the mayor, right? This whole situation. As a matter of fact, the first sentence of this section, I believe is what Mr. Zamak was talking about when he said that they didn't give any proof or anything else during that whole meeting over there, whereas this whole thing, this sentence says they've got to give written charges and it has to be discussed in open discussions so that they know what the people are talking about, right? But they can tell me, you know, cow's going to jump over the moon, and I'll have to defend that if this is the situation.
So do we have a motion to change any language in that section, or?
I would like to make a motion that we have, that more council members believes and provides proof. Just put those words in there, that there has been something, and then you can proceed from there. At least the charter member who is on the receiving end of this will have some idea of what he's really facing.
Is discussion on that or comment on that, do every member of the council, are they party to the employment agreement for that charter officer? Do they know exactly what's in it? And I assume they would. Would that employment agreement cover situations such as removal, typically? So.
Well, in my experience, okay, an employment agreement is a misnomer, okay? The employment agreement is normally a severance agreement. It doesn't tell you what you do while you're employed. It tells you what you do when you're on your way out.
It's not what we're referring to as a contract?
Well, we need to define terms here, okay? I am unsure. I've never seen what the contract is, okay? And I don't know if it's a contract that governs their employment, or is it a contract that governs their severance? Okay, because normally an employment agreement, the employment agreements that I drafted were really severance agreements. And the other thing that I'm pretty sure of, even in the public sector, aren't these people at-will employees?
Florida is an at-will state. So absent a contract or collective bargaining, everyone is at-will.
Okay. So what that means is you can be fired for any reason or for no reason. Okay.
Frank?
I would have to agree with Mr. Zomak again, all right? As Mr. Hoffman has said a couple of times tonight, right, that the officers serve at the pleasure of the city council. If they want to get rid of him, he's gone, regardless of his contract. And then you just got to look at how much it's going to cost us, which is what Mr. Zomak is saying.
I would also ask that you take a look at the language the model charter offers and the commentary. And it's located on page 31 of 68. It shortens paragraph B. Well, it takes out A and B and replaces it a lot shorter. And the commentary that I particularly endorse is, however, it assures that any unjust charges will come to light and be answered by providing for presentation to the manager of a statement of reasons for removal in the preliminary resolution, opportunity for the manager to be heard if he or she so requests. So it at least gives the person a shot, and it's a lot more direct too. So I would ask the committee to consider Article 302 as as stated in the model charter, be adopted in place of Section 303. In the model charter, it's Section 302.
So first, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second on that motion from Frank?
I'd have to look at this model charter.
So are you withdrawing your motion?
But I think it's a good idea. But
So are you going to withdraw your original motion or move forward with it?
I'll withdraw the original motion, I say.
Okay, motion is withdrawn. Now, do we have another motion?
I think this for now, again, in order to continue to move along, that we have time to consider that, that people can take a look at it, and then later on, okay, we can come back and say, no, we really like the way 303 exists right now, and we really don't have to replace it with 302. So, but at least we have something to talk about, and I am unsure if it really requires a motion to do that. It's there.
Well, so we'll go ahead and table 3.02 for a later date?
Well, it's 303.
303.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I just, one thing that rings in my head is a comment that Nancy made early on about her approach to this and reviewing the charter and seeing what needs to be fixed. And I'm not clear yet what we're trying to fix by changing Section 303.
My perspective is, there's some people say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, okay? And my perspective is, there's always room for improvement, okay? And I think this would be an improvement because it shortens it and it gives the people, the city manager at least a more flexible kind of approach to it and ensures that it's heard. And it's shorter.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a look at it.
Okay, moving forward, Section 3.04, City Manager Powers and Duties.
This is the section that I, again, addressing the sort of the performance evaluation aspect of things, but still including it. The model charter does expand and gives a lot more detail in terms of the expectations that council should have for the city manager. And I think from my own perspective, if I'm taking a job, I'd like to know as much as I can about what's expected of me. And I think that additional detail it would help the manager understand what is expected of them, and should that person have to be replaced, I think it gives city council a more detailed perspective on what they should be considering in order to replace the city manager. So like the expanded version that is model charter language, and it's 304 also, to be considered and for adoption.
Any other comments?
Yes, I have some problems with 304. My basic problem is that it does not appear to require any type of accountability by the city manager. There's none in here. The city manager can report certain things that he deems desirable. If he doesn't like it, he doesn't have to do it, right? He's in charge of doing A, B, C, D, and C, that these things are faithfully executed, but there's nothing in here to report to the council on any period at all as to what's been happening. I think there should be some kind of reporting structure in here where he has to report at least every 2 months or 3 months as to what's happening, and the council can question him on certain things that might have been progressing, such as contracts that are underway.
Well, I'm pretty sure that happens. I'm comfortable with the city council handling the city manager as the city manager's boss. But before we go any further, Mrs. Zomack, did you have a motion or you were just discussing?
Discussing.
Okay, so we don't have a motion. Okay, that's my opinion. I'm comfortable with the city council handling the charter officers as they do.
Bob, the bottom line is that you're advocating adding 9, 11, and 13. Is that what you're suggesting? those 3 additional points,
Uh,
2 duties?
Is that what it comes down to, 9, 11, and 13? I really didn't look at it that specifically.
I think that's what you wrote.
The rest of them are already there?
Expanded duties listed in items 9, 11, and 13
Yep.
reflect the complex. I was just asking, is that what you're advocating? So when we look at this,
Oh, that's in the commentary, but I'm saying replace A through G with 1 through 14.
okay.
So, do we have a motion for that, or are we going to move forward? That's just discussion.
Just discuss.
Okay. Thank you very much. So we're going to move forward. If there's no more discussion on that, 3.06, the police department. Oh, sorry, we skipped 3.05, city clerk. Hearing nothing, moving forward, 3.06. 3.07, sorry.
I have a very simple question about police department, and it goes along with charter officers. Who selects the charter officers?
City council.
The city
Shouldn't the
council.
police department, as far as I'm concerned, that should be a charter officer. It doesn't seem to fit under a city manager's duty. It's not a bureaucracy that he controls. Basically, it's controlled by the police chief, and I believe the police chief also has a contract that they have to live under, right? And if you look at the organization chart that I have over here, he's got a whole organization set. Why isn't he moved up the chart and answered directly to the city council? Discussion.
If I may, this is something that question that came into my mind as well. And I tried to research it and come up with a definition for what a charter officer is. I was unable to find one. And in the model charter, the attorney is not a charter officer. So basically, I have no idea what a charter officer is, or even why we call them charter officers. Kelly?
They're called charter officers because they're defined in the charter.
Right. I think I can respond to, or I'd like to respond to why the police chief doesn't respond directly to the council, and that's because council is elected every single year. We have council elections here, and it's hard enough to work that job for one boss, much less 5 new bosses every single year. The police department it's like some things are determining where you're going to put sidewalks. Well, you know, if that changes from year to year, that's not nearly as important as how your police department runs. Police department has to have a consistency to it, I believe, in order for the population to be able to count on their safety and protection. And I think it's appropriate that the city manager, because we have a city manager form of government, not a mayor-council form of government, that the city manager is the ultimate guy in charge. He's the manager. That's all.
Any other comments on that? Moving forward, 3.07. Nothing. 3.08. 3.09.
Again, within the model charter, the city attorney is not a charter officer. The only 2 charter officers are the city manager and the city clerk. That's it. And it's not really defined in here, like the duties and obligations of the city clerk and the city manager. So if you're a charter officer because it's defined in the charter, this isn't really defined in the charter. It just says there shall be a city attorney and we're going to hire one. So I don't even know why they're a charter officer, to tell you the truth.
So is there a motion for that, to get rid of the city attorney as a charter officer?
Sure, I'll move the city attorney be removed as a charter officer, but still included there as section 3.09.
If you look at paragraph A, I believe the reason why it's included as a charter officer is that he shall serve as chief legal advisor to the city council, as opposed to what you're contemplating is that he would then be answerable to the city manager.
No.
So this is the idea here being independence. So since he is answerable to the council, that's why he's in the charter, just like the city manager and the city clerk.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, moving forward.
Wait a minute, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
On this, explain to me why out of all we just went through the 3 charter officers and the police chief, and why we have paragraph C under 3.09. Is there a reason that that's there? Louise, you've been on these before. Did we go, I mean, why is that there and the others don't have the same comment?
I can only say that it's kind of crazy that it's there because, of course, all of the others have income or
Yeah.
payment that is determined by the city council as well.
Too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, is the city council not under contract? Is that the deal, that there are contracts for the others and there's no contract for the attorney?
no, the attorney has a contract as well.
That's what I figured, but
Yeah.
I don't get the purpose of that line. I mean, not that it harms anything by being there, but
I guess the same thing would hold true as why do we have the police department defined or identified as a separate section when the head of public works is not? There is a separate section and so on and so forth. Who knows why?
Moving forward to section 4.01.
Before you do, okay, just to address your issue, Dick, okay? In the comment that I have there, under police department, the model has no language referring to this subject. It's not even in the model charter.
.01. .02. 4.04.
Excuse me.
Yes, Dick.
And I read a note I wrote here real quick. On 402B, it says that the oath set forth shall be filed by the city clerk at least 60 days, but no more than 75 days prior to the day of the election, along with payment number 5. So this says that the person can't start, maybe I'm reading this wrong, start running for office prior to 75 days before an election? Is that what this is saying? It was set for in subsection A. In order to qualify for an election, you have to take an oath, and you can't take the oath before 75 days before the election. So that means you technically can't run for the office prior to 75 days before the election? Is that what this is saying?
That is what it says, but I don't think it means you couldn't tell your friends and relatives that you intend to run.
But you can't put up signs.
That's correct. Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that.
Well, along with your point, I think one can have a campaign kickoff and tell the friends, but I think there's other language that, in terms of elections, that says the specific size of signs and the specific date that signs should be on yards and what kind of places campaign signs should be on and what kind of places they shouldn't be on. So I think there's language somewhere else about that.
I guess I was just surprised that you can't start running for an office until 2.5 months ahead of time.
You can pre-qualify. You just have to turn in all of your paperwork during this qualifying period that's outlined in this section. So you can pre-qualify, announce that you're a candidate, submit treasury reports, submit some of the forms, but during this period, you have to turn in all of your forms, and you're actually an official candidate at that point.
4.04. Four point oh five, 4.06, 4.07, 4.08.
I had a question in the first line of 4.08. The city is not holding its election as a part of the election for Indian River County. For Indian River County. Is the election held for a county? That's a word. I mean, it didn't make sense to me. In,
If it's not a countywide election, just for the city only.
that's okay.
$4.09. Skip through that. 4.12. 4.13. 4.14.
I hate to do this to you, but we back up to 4.12. In the first line again, it says, in all general or special elections, the candidates receiving the highest vote, and yet down below it refers to the number of votes, not the highest vote. It should be the highest number of votes in each of the offices. Anybody agree with me or not?
I do agree with you, however, I think that it would be kind of a foolish waste to change it for a semantic term when the meaning is clear anyway. If we were going to make a change to the substance of that paragraph, then cleaning up the use of the English language a little bit would make sense. But otherwise, if you put this on a ballot, there would be a whole lot of people who looked at it and said, "What?"
So the word we changed earlier isn't something we would be doing. We had a word we changed earlier that suggested be changed.
Well, I think that one has to do with updating, though. And this, if we're in essence, if we're keeping the same paragraph except for changing one word, and it's just adding a word number instead of saying highest vote. I think if you said to me, what's the highest vote, I would know exactly what you meant. And if you said to me, what's the highest number of voters, I'd know what that meant too. And I think they're interchangeable in the mind of most people.
Okay.
That's just an
Agree.
opinion.
In the vernacular, everybody understands it. If you're reading the King's English, it's open for debate.
To this,
I mean,
Gen-
highest does not mean specifically the greatest number of votes.
to this general concept of just cleaning up language and the syntax that exists that's either archaic or semi-confusing throughout the charter. If you looked at the official sample ballot that came out of Leslie Swan's office, the town of Indian River Shores is doing a referendum on changing their charter, okay? And as I understood, if I remember correctly, the write-up that goes on the ballot has to be 75 words or less. Is that correct? The way that they have it here for the Indian River Shores one is, this is what they're doing, is amendments provide an ordinance 523 to change the term of office of town council members and election of dates from March of odd number of years to November of even number of years, we've heard that before, to coincide with general election dates beginning in November 2016, to clarify the town manager provision, to amend financial procedures, to remove competitive bidding, which is otherwise covered in procedural ordinances, and to clarify and update language in various sections. That sort of covers a lot, doesn't it? I don't know if it's, I didn't count it, but I don't know if that's 75 words or not. But could we squeeze it in like that?
That summary probably deals with a number of votes, not
No, it's
just one.
yeah.
Because otherwise, that would be a very difficult vote if you had all those different issues, yea or nay.
That's what I would think,
That would be a
too.
prime
but
example of
this
log
one
rolling.
just comes out yes or no, and that's the way it's going to appear on the ballot.
That would be, in my opinion, a great example of log rolling. You would have a number of different issues that people, but then again, our last Constitutional Revision Commission for the Florida Constitution had an area called miscellaneous. It had 5 or 6 different issues where you could vote on them, and it was called miscellaneous. And so it's not always assiduously followed.
Oh, we'll have to keep that in mind.
Now, do we have to look on section 4.12, because back in section 2, we put 4 years in there? Do we necessarily have to change this to match?
Could you repeat that? Help me out again. I was
Here in 4.12, it says elected for 2-year terms, but we put in section 2, 4-year term.
Would we not go back and amend the charter later on, depending upon the results of?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if we can amend it afterwards. But
I don't mean us, but I mean the next charter review committee.
that would be a conflict.
Yeah.
5 years from now, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I'll be there. Thank heaven for you. Sure,
don't
you
know.
guys all appreciate that.
Any comments on that, sir?
Well, that gets back to my earlier comments and the comments we were sharing here. Election law in Florida is fairly specific. Every initiative is supposed to address one issue, so that when the voter is asked to vote on an initiative, he has a choice. Do I like this issue, yay or nay? If he has to weigh 2 or more, then it's how much do I dislike this as opposed to how much I like that. But we have an example on the sample ballot of a number of different issues which cover different areas that are yay or nay. And as I said last time, or just on our last Constitutional Revision Commission, the voters of the state of Florida was asked to vote yay or nay on initiatives grouped by different categories, the last of which is being miscellaneous, which would seem a rather obvious violation of log rolling rules, but it went through. So it's up to the committee if it wishes to recommend an initiative that has 2 issues, just recognizing that it, strictly speaking, is not, Florida election law does not allow for that.
Right, so the question for me is, in section 2, we went and put that we're gonna propose 4-year terms. Now, this states 2-year terms in this section. Do we necessarily, can we just leave it as is, and can this be amended later because of section 2 if it gets approved?
Is there not a way of incorporating a line that says, and removing all conflict where otherwise stated in the charter?
I don't understand your point.
If you change the term limit from 2 years to 4 years, or the term from 2 years to 4 years, and you put that out there and everybody were to agree to that, then we have a conflict in this particular paragraph. But if we add to that and remove conflict where otherwise stated in the charter,
Are you talking
we
about
allowed to do that?
what conflict are you talking about, for term limits?
Conflict- Yeah,
This says 2, but if we put forward 4 in section 2, and if that gets approved, then it would be in conflict with section 4, which says 2.
But I think you can, I think what Luis is referring to is do something like perform other duties as assigned, a catch-all kind of situation.
No.
But I think in the
Oh,
write-up,
that would not be a problem. We could amend that to include 4.02,
Right.
yeah.
to make
that was the
sure
other
that
thing.
they're,
Right.
Okay, there you go.
Right.
yeah, the initiative could contemplate both of them, since they are complementary, they're not opposed to each other.
So do we need a motion for that, or?
Yes.
Okay, Beth.
Well, you're the one that did it.
So let me make sure I understand. Are we adding,
We're amending the previous motion to contemplate 4.02.
so moved?
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor signify aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Wouldn't quite catch you.
Okay, we're there now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we looking at for the next meeting? Oh, we haven't finished? Yeah. 5 and 6. 5 and 6.
Do we need to set a date for our next meeting?
Yes, we do. Next meeting, we're going to be covering section 5 and 6. Madam Clerk, what dates do we have available?
They're on the last page of the handout. Okay. There's a picture there of them, Fred?
Oh, there you go. How convenient. Good job.
Oh, my phone is not on.
11th, 18th, 19th, 25th,
I don't
26th.
want to be excused. I want to be here. Oh, any suggestions on dates?
Let's choose April 11th.
A second.
Do what?
April 11th?
Okay.
Ooh,
Ooh.
we have March 22nd, 24th, 29th, 31st. I mean, with what we have to get through and then go back and start revising, if we start doing once a month, we got 3 meetings to do that.
Yeah, we're good, I think.
I think so. I'm
Yeah.
good with that.
Once a month.
Sure.
Yeah, so I thought
So-
we had decided.
We have a, yeah. So we have a motion for
Yeah.
April 11th, and we have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. See you on April 11th. All right. There being no further business, I'm sorry, Nancy?
I have a question. Is there a way to attend telephonically? I have a elderly mom that's going to be having surgery, and I'll be gone until the 14th.
We do speakerphone? That's what you're talking about, speakerphone,
Yeah.
isn't it, Nancy?
Yes.
You can submit comments in writing, like we did this last time, if you want to review the sections, and then we'll put it in the agenda packet.
Okay.
I think you want to participate.
Yeah,
if
I
you
would like to
can.
be able to at least hear a discussion and have the opportunity to participate.
telecommute, is that what?
Telecommuting, exactly.
I would have to check on that with
Okay,
the attorney.
thank you.
Can she listen on the phone or something to her?
That's what I mean, just a usually it's a speakerphone that you just set up and every
But
once in a while you
you're saying
have to
she
holler.
can't comment on anything unless she's present, but she can listen, just like any member of the public can.
I could just tune in.
At this moment, so she's at her house
Mhm.
right now. This is not aired later. It's actually live right now.
I can do it through the internet.
Okay.
I'll do it through the internet.
But she can't comment if she's not physically here? Really? I mean, physically, she has to be physically present. In 2016, she still has to be physically present. It says that in the charter, or is it silent on it?
All right, there being no further business before this committee is now adjourned.